The farm worker organizer Cesar Chavez was born in Arizona and grew up in migrant labor camps. In the early 1960s, he helped found the National Farm Workers Association, a precursor to the United Farm Workers Organizing Committee, and eventually the United Farm Workers Union. Chavez came to international attention in March 1968 when he announced a boycott of California grapes. The boycott, in protest to the anti-union efforts of California growers, led to millions of dollars in losses for agribusinesses and led to historic contracts for the UFW. But many of the growers broke the contracts or refused to negotiate new ones. In this speech given in San Francisco in 1984, Chavez described the unfinished struggle of farm workers for justice.
21 years ago last September, on a lonely stretch of railroad track paralleling U.S. Highway 101 near Salinas, 32 Bracero farm workers lost their lives in a tragic accident. The Braceros had been imported from Mexico to work on California farms. They died when their bus, which was converted from a flatbed truck, drove in front of a freight train. Conversion of the bus had not been approved by any government agency. The driver had tunnel vision. Most of the bodies lay unidentified for days. No one, including the grower who employed the workers, even knew their names. Today, thousands of farm workers live under savage conditions, beneath trees and amid garbage and human excrement, near tomato fields in San Diego County, tomato fields which use the most modern farm technology. Vicious rats gnaw on them as they sleep. They walk miles to buy food at inflated prices, and they carry in water from irrigation pumps. Child labor is still common in many farm areas. As much as 30% of Northern California's garlic harvesters are underage children. Some 800,000 underage children work with their families harvesting crops all across America. Malnutrition among migrant worker children 10 times higher than the national rate. Farm workers' average life expectancy is still 49 years, compared to 73 years for the average American. All my life, I've been driven by one dream, one goal, one vision: to overthrow a farm labor system in this nation which treats farm workers as if they were not important human beings. Farm workers are not agricultural implements. They're not beasts of burden to be used and discarded. That dream was born in my youth. It was nurtured in my early days of organizing. It has flourished. It has been attacked. I'm not very different from anyone else who has ever tried to accomplish something with his life. My motivation comes from my personal life, from watching what my mother and father went through when I was growing up, from what we experienced as migrant farm workers in California. that dream, that vision, grew from my own experience with racism, with hope, with the desire to be treated fairly and to see my people treated as human beings and not as chattel. It grew from the frustration and humiliation that I felt as a boy who could not understand how the growers could abuse and exploit farm workers when there were so many of us and so few of them. Those who attack our union will say, it's not really a union, it's something else, a social movement, a civil rights movement. It's something dangerous. They're half right. We're organized. I didn't really appreciate it at the time, but the coming of our union signaled the start of great changes among Hispanics that are only now beginning to be seen. The union's power in agriculture has nothing to do with the number of farm workers under union contract. There's nothing to do with the farm workers' ability to contribute to democratic politicians. It doesn't even have much to do with our ability to conduct successful boycotts. History and inevitability are on our side. The farm workers and their children, and the Hispanics and their children, are the future in California. Like the other immigrant groups, the day will come when we will win the economic and political rewards which are in keeping with our numbers in society. The day will come when the politicians do the right thing by our people, out of political necessity and not out of charity or idealism. That day may not come this year. That day may not come during this decade, but it will come someday. And when that day comes, we shall see the fulfillment of that passage from the book of Matthew in the New Testament, that the last shall be first, and the first shall be last. And on that day, our nation shall fulfill its creed, and that fulfillment shall enrich us all